Hi ka-learners! Today, we will learn how to effectively communicate with others in order to have more meaningful conversations with the people around us. Let me ask you a question. Do you enjoy communicating with your friends and loved ones? What do you usually talk about? The wonderful gift of language is very important to humans. We are blessed with the capacity to say things and express ourselves through the use of language. Because of this, we can hear and receive information from other people. It is unfortunate, however, that in spite of our special ability to use this gift of language, communication between and among us is often not very effective. This may be because of the wrong choice of words that results in hurt feelings, confusion, and misunderstanding. This bogs down the communication process. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to: Number 1, define what communication is. Number 2, know the human communication process. And number 3, identify its 4 major components. To start our lesson, I'd like you to think of this situation. In the illustration, Carlo is trying to talk to Jose, but Jose could not hear him because he is deaf. Carlo did not know this and felt that Jose was just ignoring him. Jose later on wrote on a piece of paper that he is deaf. He gave this to Carlo. If you were Carlo, how would you react? Now that you have discovered that Jose is deaf, what would you do to communicate with him? In this example, we saw that communicating with a deaf person may be difficult. It would be a good start to learn sign language. Using sign language is a means of communicating using hand and body gestures. Another way is for you to write down your statements or ideas on a sheet of paper. Although communication may be achieved this way, it is still easier to use language and your ability to talk. Now, can you define what communication is? The word communication came from the Latin word communicare, which means to share. When you communicate, you try to connect with another person. A communication process becomes effective when the ideas expressed are understood. This way, communication acts like a bridge to connect 2 or more people, enabling them to affect each other through the process. Communication is a process, and it is composed of 4 very important components: the sender, the receiver, the message, and the medium. Let's go through each one by one. The sender. He or she is the one who sends the message in the communication process. The receiver. He or she is the other person involved in communication. He or she receives the message and processes it in his or her mind. For effective communication to take place, the people involved in the process should alternately change roles as sender and receiver. Hence, one can be a receiver for a moment, but later on be a sender in a conversation. In fact, this shifting of roles is both necessary and important to allow effective communication to occur. In this illustration, Tina is sending a message to Anna. Whenever Tina talks, she is the sender. Anna hears what Tina is saying, therefore, she is the receiver. Now, Anna is responding to Tina. Anna is the one speaking, so she is now the sender. Tina then becomes the receiver. Note from this example that during a conversation, one changes role from sender to receiver many times. This is how communication works. It is not a one-way, but a two-way process. This process facilitates the exchange of ideas for better understanding. The medium. This is the means or the way by which the message is sent. There are different types of media. These include spoken word or oral communication. It is the most common way of sending messages in a conversation. Written communication. This refers to sending messages through writing. Letters, notes, and memoranda are examples of this. Non-verbal communication. This refers to body language, including gestures, motions, and facial expressions. A smile, a raised eyebrow, a frown, and head movements can convey certain meanings. And technological media of messages. This refers to sending messages using technological equipment like radio, television, mobile phones, etc. Try this yourself, ka-learners. What message do you think is being conveyed by each person's body language in the following illustrations? You may compare your answers to the matching answer key of this lesson when you check into your online LMS account. If your answers are different, that's okay. The meanings of non-verbal gestures may vary from person to person. For example, to us Filipinos, moving our heads from side to side means saying no. In India, doing the same thing is similar to saying yes. It is therefore important to clarify the meanings of gestures to the person you are communicating with so that confusion or misunderstanding can be avoided. The non-verbal gestures during a conversation are sometimes more important than actual spoken words. Look at the following illustration. Carla is greeting Joey a very happy birthday, but her face showed disgust or anger. She frowned and refused to smile. If you were Joey, how would you interpret Carla's gesture? Which one would you believe more? Her spoken words or non-verbal gestures? And the last but not the least component of the communication process is the message. This is what you are actually transmitting or sending. This is what the receiver receives and interprets. Without this, there can be no communication. Have you heard of the term mass media? This refers to the means by which a message reaches the masses or a really big amount of people at a given time. An example would be radio. This is a form of mass media that carries a message and reaches many people. In this illustration, what is the actual message? Would you be happy to receive such a message? If you were the receiver of the message, how would you react? What would you say? What would you do? The language used in communicating also differs from place to place and from country to country. It is important that the persons who are communicating use the same language. Otherwise, messages will not be understood. How about you? What languages can you speak or understand? People from different places usually say the same things in different ways. This is true if the places are very far away from each other. The word hello, for example, can be said in different ways. Impress your friends by learning these words from this illustration. Say them aloud and use them during conversations. Think of a conversation where the persons involved speak in different languages. If you are talking to a foreigner like a Japanese friend who does not understand anything you say, how will you convey your messages to him or her? How will you invite him or her to eat? How will you thank him or her? Now, it's time for a self-quiz. The following illustrations show conversations taking place between a mother, her child, and the sari-sari store owner. Identify the receiver and sender, the medium, and the message in each frame. Compare your answers to the matching answer key of this lesson when you check into your online LMS account. If you got a score of 10 or higher, very good! You learned a lot from the lesson. Just review the parts you missed. If you got a score of 5 or below, review the lesson before proceeding to the next one. To summarize, We can define communication as the process by which we express our thoughts and ideas to other people and transfer information. When we communicate, we try to connect with another person. A communication process becomes effective when the ideas expressed are understood. This way, communication acts like a bridge to connect two or more people, enabling them to affect each other. Communication is not a one-way, but a two-way process that constantly changes. Sometimes, the sender can be the receiver, while there are also instances when the receiver can send the messages. Lastly, the communication process has 4 important components. All of this should be present for communication to take place. Sender, it is the person who sends the message. Receiver, it is the person who receives the message. Medium, it is the means or way by which the messages are sent, either orally, through writing, non-verbally, through technological media. And lastly, the message. It is what is being sent. This must be understandable for communication to work. And there you have it! Now that you know the basic ins and outs of communication, you're on your road to making more meaningful conversations with your family, friends, and peers. Thanks for learning with me today, ka-learners!